Welcome, friend, to this journey through time where we'll uncover the remarkable resilience of women who faced winter's deadly embrace with nothing but their wits and determination. Tonight, we're stepping into a world where survival wasn't just about staying warm, but about mastering an intricate dance between life and death that played out every winter for centuries. Whether you're settling in for the evening or simply curious about how our ancestors endured what would seem impossible to us today, I'm grateful you've chosen to spend this time exploring the past. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what draws you to these stories of medieval survival. Have you ever wondered how women in medieval times managed to survive winters that regularly claimed entire families? The answer isn't what most history books tell you. These weren't passive victims waiting for spring's return. Instead, medieval women developed sophisticated survival strategies that would make modern preppers look like amateurs, systematically preparing for months of potential starvation, bone-chilling cold, and complete isolation from the outside world. What I'm about to reveal will completely change how you understand medieval life and the incredible resourcefulness of women who lived through some of history's harshest conditions. This wasn't just about bundling up in more layers or gathering firewood. These women mastered complex preservation techniques, created ingenious heating systems, and developed social networks that could mean the difference between survival and death when winter storms trapped entire communities for weeks at a time. By the end of this series, you'll understand exactly how medieval women transformed their homes into survival fortresses and why their knowledge was so crucial that entire villages depended on their expertise. But before we dive into the specific techniques that kept families alive through the darkest months, let me paint you a picture of just how brutal medieval winters truly were. The year is 1315, and Europe is experiencing what historians now call the Great Famine. But this isn't just about crop failures and empty granaries. This is about a climate disaster that would reshape medieval society forever. Temperatures had been dropping for decades, creating what we now know as the Little Ice Age. Rivers that had flowed freely for generations were freezing solid for months at a time. Growing seasons shortened by weeks, and harvests failed year after year. In this world, winter wasn't just a season to endure. It was a test of everything a community had learned about survival over generations. And at the heart of these survival networks were women whose knowledge meant the difference between a family's survival and their complete destruction. Medieval women understood something that we've largely forgotten in our modern world of central heating and grocery stores. They knew that surviving winter began in spring, not when the first snow fell. Every decision they made throughout the year was calculated against the coming cold. The herbs they planted in their gardens weren't just for cooking. They were medicine that could treat frostbite and respiratory infections that killed thousands every winter. The animals they raised weren't just livestock. They were carefully managed systems that provided not only food, but warmth, light, and materials for clothing and shelter. Take Marguerite de Clisson, a merchant's wife from Normandy, whose detailed household records from 1347 provide us with extraordinary insight into medieval winter preparation. Starting in early spring, Marguerite began what she called her winter campaign. She didn't just plant vegetables for summer eating. She cultivated specific varieties of turnips, cabbages, and onions that could be stored in root cellars for months without spoiling. But more remarkably, she maintained detailed records of which preservation techniques worked best for different foods and in different weather conditions. Marguerite's records show that she began preserving meat in July, using salt she had purchased months earlier when prices were lowest. But she didn't just salt meat randomly. She had learned from her mother and grandmother exactly which cuts needed the most salt, how to layer the meat with herbs that would prevent spoilage, and how to create storage conditions that would keep preserved meat edible through March and April when fresh food was completely unavailable. The salt itself tells us something remarkable about medieval women's economic sophistication. Salt was expensive, sometimes costing as much as a day's wages for a small amount. But women like Marguerite understood that buying salt in bulk during summer months could mean the difference between their family's survival and starvation. They developed credit relationships with merchants, pooled resources with neighbors, and even organized cooperative purchasing arrangements that allowed entire communities to access preservation materials they couldn't afford individually. But preservation was just the beginning of their winter survival strategies. Medieval women also had to master what we might call thermal engineering without any understanding of modern physics. They learned through trial and error and generations of passed down knowledge how to create heating systems that could keep families warm using minimal fuel during months when gathering firewood might be impossible. The key to understanding medieval heating is recognizing that these women weren't just keeping fires burning. They were managing complex systems that captured, stored, and distributed heat throughout living spaces that might house extended families of 10 or 15 people. The central hearth wasn't just a fireplace, it was the heart of a sophisticated system that included heated stones for warming beds, ceramic vessels that could hold hot coals for hours, and carefully designed sleeping arrangements that maximize shared body heat while minimizing heat loss to the outside air. Isabella of Anjou, whose household management treatise from 1298 survives in fragmentary form, describes what she calls the art of winter warmth. Isabella explains that successful winter heating required understanding not just how to build fires, but how to build fires that would burn efficiently through the night without consuming excessive fuel. She describes techniques for banking coals that would provide steady heat for 12 hours using half the wood that most people burned in 6 hours. More remarkably, Isabella's treatise reveals that medieval women had developed sophisticated understanding of what we now call thermal mass. They would heat large stones during the day when they had fires burning for cooking, then move these stones to sleeping areas where they would radiate warmth through the night. They created what were essentially medieval hot water bottles, using ceramic vessels filled with heated water or sand that could provide personal warmth for hours without requiring additional fuel. The clothing systems that medieval women developed were equally sophisticated and far more complex than the simple layering that most people imagine. These weren't just people wearing more clothes. Medieval women created integrated clothing systems that managed moisture, provided insulation, and could be modified quickly as temperatures and activity levels changed throughout the day. The key insight that medieval women understood about winter clothing was that staying dry was often more important than staying warm. Wet clothing in medieval winters could kill you faster than cold air alone, so they developed clothing systems that managed perspiration and external moisture using materials and techniques that wouldn't be understood by textile scientists for centuries. Wool was obviously crucial, but medieval women knew that not all wool was the same. They understood which breeds of sheep produced wool that was best for different garments and different weather conditions. They knew that wool from sheep that had grazed on certain types of grass would be more water resistant, and they developed spinning and weaving techniques that enhanced these natural properties. But beyond wool, medieval women worked with materials that we might find surprising. They used bird down for insulation, but not just any bird down. They knew that down from different birds provided different types of insulation and had learned which types worked best in different conditions. They used fur not just for warmth, but strategically placed to provide windproofing in areas where heat loss was most dangerous. The undergarments that medieval women created were particularly sophisticated. They developed linen undergarments that wickeded moisture away from skin, preventing the dampness that could lead to hypothermia. They created layering systems that trapped air for insulation while allowing enough air circulation to prevent overheating during physical activity. Most remarkably, they designed these garments to be easily washable and quick drying, understanding that maintaining hygiene during winter months was crucial for preventing the diseases that killed as many people as cold and starvation combined. Dame Eleanor de Montfort's household accounts from 1284 include detailed inventories of winter clothing that reveal the complexity of these systems. Eleanor's household maintained separate clothing inventories for different types of winter weather. They had clothing designed for dry cold, wet cold, and what Eleanor calls storm weather, when people might be trapped outside during blizzards. Each type of weather required different combinations of garments that could be assembled quickly as conditions changed. Eleanor's accounts also reveal the economic planning that winter clothing required. She began purchasing materials for winter garments in spring, when prices were lowest and quality was highest. She maintained relationships with specific textile merchants who could provide materials that met her exacting standards for winter survival. Most importantly, she organized her household's clothing production around a careful schedule that ensured everyone would have appropriate winter clothing finished before the first hard frost. The social systems that medieval women created for winter survival were perhaps even more sophisticated than their technical innovations. These women understood that individual families, no matter how well prepared, could not survive severe winters alone. They developed community networks that shared resources, knowledge, and labor in ways that dramatically increased everyone's chances of survival. These networks weren't informal neighborly cooperation. They were carefully organized systems with specific obligations and expectations that ensured communities could respond effectively to winter emergencies. Women maintained detailed knowledge of every household's resources and capabilities, creating what were essentially medieval early warning systems that could mobilize community responses to developing crises before they became fatal. The story of how these remarkable women transformed mere survival into an art form that sustained entire civilizations through centuries of brutal winters is far more complex and fascinating than we could cover in a single exploration. Their innovations in food preservation, heating technology, clothing design, and community organization created the foundation for medieval societies to not just survive, but thrive during some of the harshest climatic conditions in human history. But understanding their preservation techniques is only the beginning of appreciating their genius. The systems they developed for managing water, creating light, treating winter illnesses, and maintaining morale during months of isolation reveal levels of sophistication that challenge everything we think we know about medieval technology and social organization. The water management systems that medieval women developed represent perhaps their most ingenious survival innovations, yet they remain largely overlooked by historians who focus on military campaigns and political intrigue. These women understood that winter water sources presented deadly challenges that went far beyond simple inconvenience. When wells froze solid and streams became impassable ribbons of ice, families could die of thirst, even while surrounded by snow and ice that seemed to offer unlimited water. But medieval women discovered something that would astound modern survivalists. They learned that not all winter water sources were equal, and that the difference between safe water and deadly water could determine whether a family survived until spring. Through generations of careful observation, they developed techniques for identifying, accessing, and purifying water that required no modern technology, yet proved more reliable than many contemporary methods. Agnes de Beaumont, whose survival manual from 1356 provides extraordinary detail about winter water management, explains that the first rule of winter water was never to depend on obvious sources. Snow might seem like unlimited fresh water, but Agnes knew that eating snow could kill you faster than dehydration. The energy required to melt and warm snow inside the human body could drain a person's reserves so quickly that they would freeze to death while trying to hydrate. Instead, Agnes describes techniques for creating what she calls water gardens, carefully constructed systems that captured and stored water during autumn months when sources were still flowing freely. These weren't simple containers left outside to freeze. They were sophisticated storage systems that kept water liquid and safe to drink throughout even the harshest winters. The key to Agnes's water gardens was understanding thermal dynamics without any formal scientific training. She knew that water stored underground would remain liquid longer than surface water, but she also understood that simply burying containers wasn't sufficient. She developed techniques for creating insulated underground chambers that maintain temperatures just above freezing while protecting stored water from contamination. More remarkably, Agnes had learned to identify natural springs that would continue flowing even when surface water froze solid. She could read landscape features that indicated underground water sources and knew how to access these springs even when they were buried under feet of snow and ice. Her manual includes detailed descriptions of the tools and techniques required to reach flowing water during the deepest winter months. But accessing water was only half the challenge. Medieval women also had to ensure that their winter water supplies remained safe to drink during months when illness could kill as effectively as cold or starvation. They developed purification techniques that eliminated dangerous bacteria and parasites using materials available in medieval households. The herb gardens that medieval women maintained weren't just for cooking and basic medicine. They included specific plants whose roots and leaves could purify contaminated water. Agnes describes how to use willow bark, birch leaves, and certain mosses to create filtration systems that removed dangerous organisms from questionable water sources. She explains how to recognize signs of water contamination and provides detailed instructions for treating different types of water problems using only materials that families could gather and prepare themselves. The lighting systems that medieval women created for winter survival reveal another dimension of their technological sophistication. Modern people might assume that medieval families simply went to bed when the sun set and woke when it rose, conserving candles and oil for emergencies. But this assumption completely misunderstands the reality of medieval winter life. Extended darkness during winter months created psychological challenges that could destroy families as effectively as cold or hunger. Medieval women understood that maintaining normal activities and social interactions during long winter nights was crucial for mental health and community cohesion. They developed lighting technologies that provided sufficient illumination for essential activities while using minimal resources that had to last through months of isolation. Dame Mathilde de Brabant's household records from 1312 include detailed accounts of winter lighting preparations that began in summer. Mathilde didn't just purchase candles and lamp oil. She organized her household's lighting needs around a complex system that included different types of lights for different activities and times of night. For basic household tasks, Mathilde used what she calls rush lights, candles made from rushes dipped in animal fat that burned slowly and steadily for hours. But she had learned that different types of animal fat produced different qualities of light and different burning characteristics. Fat from certain animals burned cleaner and brighter, while fat from others lasted longer but produced more smoke. For activities requiring detailed work, such as textile production or food preparation, Mathilde used more expensive candles made from beeswax that provided brighter, cleaner light. But she had calculated exactly how much beeswax her household would need for essential activities, and purchased only that amount, using cheaper alternatives for general illumination. Most ingeniously, Mathilde had learned to create reflective lighting systems that amplified available light using polished metal surfaces and carefully positioned containers of water. She could make a single candle provide illumination equivalent to several candles by positioning reflective surfaces that directed and concentrated the available light exactly where it was needed. The medical knowledge that medieval women accumulated for treating winter illnesses represents perhaps their most critical survival skill. Winter diseases killed more people than cold, hunger, and accidents combined. Medieval women became experts in diagnosing and treating respiratory infections, digestive problems, and injuries that were particularly dangerous during winter months when professional medical help was completely unavailable. But their medical knowledge went far beyond simple folk remedies. These women developed sophisticated understanding of how cold weather affected human physiology and created treatment protocols that addressed the specific challenges of winter illness. They understood that diseases progressed differently in cold weather, and that treatments effective during summer months might be useless or even dangerous during winter. Sister Marguerite of Saint Denis, whose medical treatise from 1289 survived in a monastery library, describes winter medicine as completely different from summer healing. She explains that winter illnesses require different herbs, different preparation methods, and different treatment schedules. Cold weather changed how the human body absorbed medicines, how quickly treatments took effect, and how long recovery required. Sister Marguerite's treatise includes detailed descriptions of preparing and storing medicines specifically for winter use. She knew that some herbs lost their effectiveness when dried, while others became more potent. She understood which medicines could be prepared months in advance, and which had to be created fresh as needed. Most importantly, she had learned to recognize the early signs of winter diseases and could begin treatment before illnesses became life-threatening. The respiratory infections that plagued medieval communities during winter required particularly sophisticated treatment approaches. Sister Marguerite describes creating steam treatments using heated stones and specific combinations of herbs that could clear congested lungs and reduce fever. She explains how to construct improvised saunas using available materials that could provide therapeutic heat treatments when people were too ill to maintain normal body temperature. For digestive problems caused by preserved foods and limited winter diets, Sister Marguerite developed treatments that restored normal digestion while providing essential nutrients that were difficult to obtain during winter months. She knew which preserved foods were most likely to cause problems and created preventive treatments that allowed families to maintain adequate nutrition using stored foods without developing dangerous digestive disorders. The psychological strategies that medieval women employed to maintain morale during long winter months reveal their deep understanding of human nature and community dynamics. Extended isolation, limited daylight, and constant stress about survival created mental health challenges that could destroy communities from within. Medieval women developed systematic approaches to maintaining hope, purpose, and social cohesion during the darkest and most difficult months of the year. These weren't just informal efforts to keep spirits up. Medieval women created structured activities and social rituals specifically designed to address the psychological challenges of winter survival. They understood that maintaining normal social relationships and community activities was as important as securing adequate food and shelter. The feast systems that medieval women organized during winter months served purposes far beyond simple celebration. These gatherings provided opportunities for families to share resources, exchange information, and maintain the social connections that were essential for community survival. But more subtly, they created structured opportunities for people to experience joy, beauty, and celebration during months when daily life was dominated by survival concerns. Dame Isabella of Gloucester's household accounts from 1334 include detailed descriptions of winter feast preparations that reveal the complexity of these social survival systems. Isabella's feasts weren't elaborate celebrations that consumed precious winter resources. They were carefully planned events that strengthened community bonds while actually improving everyone's survival prospects. Isabella organized her winter feasts around resource sharing that benefited everyone involved. Families brought different types of preserved foods to share, creating more varied and nutritious meals than anyone could prepare alone. But the sharing wasn't random. Isabella maintained detailed knowledge of each family's resources and needs, organizing feast contributions so that families with surplus preserved meats would share with families who had extra grains or vegetables. The entertainment at these gatherings was equally purposeful. Isabella organized storytelling sessions that preserved and transmitted essential survival knowledge while providing psychological relief from winter stress. Stories about successful survival during previous harsh winters reinforced community confidence and provided practical examples that people could apply to their own situations. Music and dancing at winter feasts served important physical and psychological functions. Physical activity during long winter months was essential for maintaining health and preventing the muscle weakness that could make essential survival tasks impossible. But more importantly, group activities created shared experiences that strengthened social bonds and provided emotional support during the most challenging months of the year. The craft activities that medieval women organized during winter months created another crucial survival strategy that combined practical necessity with psychological support. Long winter evenings provided time for detailed work that was impossible during busy summer months. But these activities had to produce essential items while also maintaining morale and social connections. Medieval women developed what we might call productive socialization, gathering together to work on essential crafts while maintaining the social interactions that prevented isolation and depression. These weren't casual social activities. They were carefully organized work sessions that accomplished essential survival tasks while providing psychological and social benefits that were equally important for community survival. Dame Eleanor de Clare's household management records from 1318 describe wintercraft sessions that produced everything from clothing and household tools to medicines and preserved foods. But Eleanor's records reveal that these sessions were organized around social and psychological considerations as much as practical production needs. Eleanor scheduled different types of craft activities to provide variety and prevent boredom during long winter months. She organized sessions where experienced women taught essential skills to younger family members, ensuring that crucial survival knowledge would be transmitted to the next generation. She planned collaborative projects that required multiple people working together, creating shared goals and accomplishments that strengthened community bonds. The timing and structure of these craft sessions was carefully designed to address the psychological challenges of winter survival. Eleanor scheduled intensive work periods during the darkest weeks of winter, when depression and despair were most likely to develop. She organized celebration activities around the completion of important projects, creating opportunities for recognition and accomplishment during months when daily life offered few rewards. Most remarkably, Eleanor had learned to identify and address the early signs of what we might recognize as seasonal depression. She describes techniques for recognizing when individuals were becoming dangerously isolated or despondent, and provides specific strategies for drawing them back into community activities before their mental state became a threat to their survival or the welfare of their families. The innovations and strategies that medieval women developed for winter survival created the foundation for community resilience that sustained European civilization through centuries of climatic challenges. Their knowledge systems, social organizations, and technological innovations provided models for collective survival that influenced social development long after the specific techniques were no longer needed. But their greatest achievement might have been demonstrating that survival in extreme conditions required far more than individual preparation or technological solutions. They proved that the most effective survival strategies combined practical knowledge with social cooperation, individual skill with community support, and technical innovation with psychological resilience in ways that created systems stronger and more adaptable than any individual component. The depth and sophistication of their survival knowledge challenges our assumptions about medieval technology and social organization, revealing capabilities and innovations that wouldn't look out of place in modern survival handbooks. Yet their achievements were built entirely on careful observation, systematic experimentation, and the accumulated wisdom of generations of women who understood that their families and communities depended on their expertise to survive the harsh realities of medieval winters. Winters. The textile production systems that medieval women mastered during winter months reveal another layer of their extraordinary resourcefulness. These weren't simple spinning and weaving activities to pass time during long evenings. Medieval women understood that winter textile work could mean the difference between adequate protection from the elements and deadly exposure when existing clothing wore out or proved insufficient for unexpected weather conditions. Dame Catherine de Montpensier's workshop records from 1342 provide remarkable insight into the complexity of winter textile production. Catherine didn't just repair damaged clothing or create simple replacement garments. She had developed systematic approaches to textile production that maximized the use of available materials while creating garments specifically designed for different types of winter conditions that her family might encounter. Catherine's workshop operated on what she called the principle of continuous preparation. Throughout winter months, she maintained multiple textile projects at different stages of completion, ensuring that her household could respond quickly to changing clothing needs without wasting precious materials or time. She kept partially completed garments that could be finished rapidly if someone's existing clothing was damaged or lost. She maintained supplies of prepared materials that could be assembled into emergency clothing within days rather than weeks. But Catherine's most sophisticated innovation was her understanding of material properties under extreme conditions. She had learned through careful experimentation which combinations of fibers provided the best protection against different types of winter weather. She knew that wool from sheep raised in different environments had different characteristics when exposed to moisture, wind, and extreme cold. She understood which weaving patterns provided the best insulation while maintaining flexibility for movement and work. More remarkably, Catherine had developed techniques for modifying existing textiles to improve their winter performance. She could treat wool garments with natural substances that enhanced their water resistance without reducing their insulation properties. She knew how to repair damaged clothing in ways that actually strengthened the garment against future wear and weather damage. She had learned to combine different types of fibers in ways that created textiles with properties superior to any single material. The dye systems that medieval women maintained during winter months served purposes that extended far beyond simple decoration. Catherine's records reveal that certain dyes provided practical benefits for winter survival, including natural insect repellents that prevented infestations in stored clothing and antimicrobial properties that reduced the risk of skin infections during months when bathing was difficult or impossible. Catherine had learned to extract dyes from plants that grew in her region, but she had also discovered that some of the most useful dyes came from materials that were only available during winter months. Certain bark and root materials that could be harvested during cold weather produced dyes with properties that weren't available from summer plants. She had developed harvesting and processing techniques that allowed her to collect these materials safely even during severe weather conditions. The tool maintenance and creation systems that medieval women developed during winter months represent another crucial survival capability that historians have largely overlooked. Winter weather was particularly hard on essential tools and equipment, but replacement tools were often impossible to obtain during months when travel and trade were severely limited. Medieval women learned to maintain, repair, and even create essential tools using only materials available within their immediate communities. Dame Alicia de Warren's household inventories from 1329 include detailed descriptions of winter tool management that reveal the sophistication of these systems. Alicia maintained comprehensive inventories of every tool in her household, tracking their condition and scheduling maintenance work throughout winter months when outdoor activities were limited. But her system went far beyond simple maintenance. Alicia had learned to identify potential tool failures before they became critical problems. She could recognize signs of wear or damage that indicated a tool would likely fail within weeks or months, allowing her to schedule repairs or replacement during periods when her household had time and materials available. She maintained detailed records of which tools failed most frequently under different conditions, enabling her to focus her maintenance efforts on preventing the most likely problems. More impressively, Alicia had developed techniques for creating essential tools using only materials available during winter months. She could forge simple metal tools using iron salvaged from broken equipment and forge fires that could be maintained in her household workshops. She knew how to create wooden handles and tool components using wood that could be harvested and seasoned even during winter weather. The preservation of perishable materials during winter months required knowledge systems that went far beyond simple food storage. Medieval women had to maintain stocks of materials needed for medicine, textile production, tool maintenance, and other essential activities during months when fresh materials were completely unavailable. Dame Margaret de Bohun's storage records from 1351 describe preservation techniques for dozens of different materials that were essential for household survival but would spoil or deteriorate if not properly maintained during winter months. Margaret had learned to preserve plant materials needed for medicine and dyeing using techniques that maintained their essential properties for months or even years. Her preservation methods were based on understanding the specific characteristics of different materials and the environmental conditions that caused deterioration. She knew that some materials needed to be kept completely dry, while others required specific levels of moisture to maintain their usefulness. She understood which materials were damaged by light exposure and which actually improved when exposed to controlled amounts of sunlight during winter months. Margaret had developed storage systems that maintained optimal conditions for different types of materials using only environmental controls available in medieval households. She created dry storage areas that maintained consistent low humidity even during wet winter weather. She designed cool storage spaces that remained at stable temperatures without requiring ice or other cooling materials that weren't available during winter months. The fuel management systems that medieval women created extended far beyond simple firewood collection and storage. These women understood that different types of fuel were needed for different purposes, and that managing fuel resources effectively could determine whether a household had adequate heat and cooking capability throughout the entire winter season. Dame Joan de Beauchamp's fuel management records from 1338 reveal systematic approaches to fuel collection, storage, and utilization that maximized heating efficiency while minimizing consumption of precious fuel resources. Joan didn't just collect firewood randomly throughout the year. She had learned which types of wood burned most efficiently for different purposes, and organized her fuel collection around systematic harvesting of specific tree species at optimal times. Joan understood that wood cut at different times of year had different burning characteristics and storage requirements. She knew that wood harvested during specific seasons would dry more quickly and burn more efficiently than wood cut at other times. She had learned to identify trees that were beginning to die or become diseased, allowing her to harvest fuel wood that would otherwise be wasted while avoiding damage to healthy trees that provided other benefits to her community. Her storage systems were designed to maintain optimal burning characteristics while preventing the rot and insect damage that could destroy fuel supplies before they were needed. Joan created storage structures that protected wood from moisture while allowing air circulation that prevented fungal growth. She organized her stored fuel so that wood would be properly seasoned when needed, while maintaining easy access during winter weather when moving heavy materials was difficult and dangerous. But Joan's most sophisticated innovation was her understanding of fuel efficiency for different heating and cooking needs. She had learned that different types of fires required different combinations of wood species and sizes to achieve optimal results. She knew how to build cooking fires that provided steady, controllable heat for food preparation while using minimal fuel. She understood how to create heating fires that provided maximum warmth for extended periods while consuming less wood than conventional burning methods. The emergency response systems that medieval women developed for winter crises represent perhaps their most critical survival innovations. No matter how well prepared a household might be, winter weather could create unexpected emergencies that required immediate responses, using only resources immediately available. Medieval women learned to recognize developing emergencies before they became life-threatening, and created response systems that could address various types of winter crises effectively. Dame Isabel de Forz's emergency protocols from 1345 describe systematic approaches to identifying and responding to different types of winter emergencies that could threaten household survival. Isabel had learned to recognize early warning signs of developing problems that might not become critical for days or weeks, allowing her household to take preventive action before emergencies became unsolvable. Her warning systems included techniques for monitoring food supplies that could predict shortages weeks before they became critical. She knew how to assess the condition of stored foods and calculate consumption rates that would indicate whether current supplies would last through the remaining winter months. She had developed methods for identifying signs of spoilage or contamination in preserved foods before they became dangerous to consume. Isabel's medical emergency protocols included techniques for recognizing serious illnesses during their early stages when treatment was most likely to be effective. She knew how to distinguish between minor ailments that would resolve naturally and serious conditions that could become life-threatening without prompt treatment. She had learned to identify signs of malnutrition, hypothermia, and other winter-specific health problems before they progressed to dangerous stages. Her structural emergency systems addressed problems with buildings, heating systems, and essential equipment that could create immediate threats to household survival. Isabel knew how to recognize signs that roofs might collapse under snow loads before the collapse occurred. She understood how to identify heating system problems that could lead to dangerous fires or carbon monoxide poisoning. She had developed repair techniques that could address critical structural problems using only materials available during winter weather. The communication systems that medieval women maintained during winter months enabled communities to coordinate responses to emergencies and share resources during critical shortages. These weren't informal neighborhood networks. They were carefully organized communication systems that could function effectively even during severe weather that made normal travel impossible. Dame Eleanor de Montfort's communication records from 1352 describe signaling systems that allowed households to communicate essential information across distances during winter weather, when direct contact was impossible. Eleanor had developed visual signaling techniques using smoke, light, and positioned objects that could convey specific types of information about household status and immediate needs. Her systems included codes that could indicate different types of emergencies or resource needs without requiring complex messages or written communication. Households could signal that they needed medical assistance, had surplus food available for sharing, or were experiencing heating emergencies that required immediate community response. The signaling systems were designed to function during severe weather conditions when normal communication methods were impossible. Eleanor had also developed techniques for maintaining communication networks during extended periods of isolation, when households might be cut off from their communities for weeks at a time. She organized rotating communication schedules that ensured regular contact between households while minimizing the risks associated with travel during dangerous weather. She created backup communication methods that could function when primary systems failed or became unusable. The psychological resilience systems that medieval women created for managing winter stress and maintaining community morale during extended hardships reveal their sophisticated understanding of human psychology and social dynamics. Long winter months created mental health challenges that could destroy individuals and communities as effectively as physical hardships. But medieval women developed systematic approaches to maintaining psychological health during the most challenging periods. Dame Margaret de Clare's household management treatise from 1348 includes detailed descriptions of techniques for recognizing and addressing winter depression, anxiety, and social conflicts that commonly developed during extended periods of isolation and stress. Margaret understood that psychological problems often developed gradually and could become serious threats to household survival if not addressed promptly and effectively. Her diagnostic techniques included methods for recognizing early signs of depression, anxiety, and other mental health problems that were particularly common during winter months. She knew how to distinguish between temporary mood problems that would resolve naturally and serious psychological conditions that required active intervention. She had learned to identify individuals who were becoming dangerously isolated or despondent before their mental state affected their ability to contribute to household survival or care for their families. Margaret's intervention techniques included structured activities and social interactions designed to address specific types of psychological problems while maintaining the productivity and cooperation essential for household survival. She organized work activities that provided opportunities for individual accomplishment and recognition while contributing to essential survival tasks. She created social interactions that maintained community bonds while addressing conflicts and tensions that could develop during extended periods of close contact and shared stress. The legacy of medieval women's winter survival systems extends far beyond their immediate historical context, providing insights into human adaptability and community resilience that remain relevant for contemporary challenges. Their innovations demonstrate that effective survival strategies must integrate technical knowledge with social cooperation, individual preparation with community support, and practical solutions with psychological resilience in ways that create systems more robust and adaptable than any individual component. Their achievements challenge modern assumptions about technological progress and social development, revealing capabilities and innovations that developed through careful observation, systematic experimentation, and accumulated wisdom rather than formal scientific knowledge or industrial technology. Yet their solutions to survival challenges often proved more sustainable and effective than contemporary approaches that rely on complex infrastructure and external resources that may not be available during emergencies. The knowledge systems that these remarkable women created and maintained represent one of history's most sophisticated examples of practical survival science, developed and tested under conditions that provided immediate feedback about the effectiveness of different strategies and techniques. Their success in maintaining families and communities through centuries of climatic challenges provides powerful evidence of human capacity for adaptation and innovation when survival depends on practical knowledge and community cooperation. Cooperation. The community resource management systems that medieval women orchestrated during winter months demonstrate their remarkable understanding of collective survival economics. These weren't simple arrangements where neighbors occasionally helped each other. Medieval women created sophisticated resource-sharing networks that maximize community survival chances, while ensuring that individual households maintained their dignity and autonomy during the most vulnerable months of the year. Dame Beatrice de Montfort's community management records from 1359 reveal the complexity of these resource-sharing systems. Beatrice maintained detailed inventories, not just of her own household's resources, but of every family's capabilities and needs within her extended community network. She knew which households had surplus grain but insufficient preserved meat, which families possessed exceptional textile skills but lacked adequate fuel supplies, and which neighbors had medical knowledge that could benefit everyone during health emergencies. But Beatrice's system went far beyond simple bartering or charity. She had developed what we might recognize as an early form of community insurance, where families contributed resources and labor during good times to build collective reserves that could support everyone during emergencies. These contributions were carefully calculated based on each household's capabilities and circumstances, ensuring that the system remained fair and sustainable over multiple winter seasons. The timing of these resource exchanges was as crucial as the materials themselves. Beatrice understood that families needed to maintain their self-respect and community standing, even when accepting assistance during desperate circumstances. She organized resource sharing around collaborative projects and community celebrations that allowed families to receive needed support while contributing their own skills and knowledge to collective efforts. Her records show how these systems functioned during the severe winter of 1361, when early blizzards trapped communities for weeks longer than normal preparation had anticipated. Households that had seemed adequately prepared found themselves facing shortages that could have been fatal without community support. But Beatrice's resource-sharing network enabled the community to redistribute available supplies based on immediate needs while maintaining detailed records that ensured fair compensation when circumstances improved. The winter construction projects that medieval women organized demonstrate another dimension of their survival innovation. Rather than simply maintaining existing structures until spring repairs could be completed, these women learned to use winter months for construction activities that actually improved their household's survival capabilities while providing productive work during long periods of enforced indoor time. Dame Catherine de Valence's construction records from 1367 describe winter building projects that created improved storage facilities, more efficient heating systems, and better protection against severe weather using only materials available during winter months. Catherine understood that winter construction required different techniques and materials than summer building, but she had learned to adapt construction methods that could produce essential improvements even under challenging conditions. Her projects included creating underground storage chambers that provided better temperature control for preserved foods and essential materials. These weren't simple holes in the ground, but carefully engineered spaces with drainage systems that prevented flooding, insulation that maintained stable temperatures, and access systems that remained functional even during severe weather. Catherine had also learned to improve existing heating systems during winter months using materials that could be salvaged or repurposed from other household items. She could modify fireplaces to improve heat distribution and reduce fuel consumption, create thermal mass systems that stored and released heat more efficiently, and build ventilation systems that prevented dangerous smoke accumulation while maintaining indoor temperatures. Her most impressive innovations involved creating multi-purpose construction projects that addressed several survival needs simultaneously. She designed storage and workshop spaces that could function as emergency living areas if main household structures were damaged by winter storms. She created food preparation areas that incorporated heating systems, storage facilities, and workspaces in integrated designs that maximized efficiency while minimizing the fuel and materials required for construction and operation. The record-keeping systems that medieval women maintained during winter months reveal their understanding that survival knowledge was too valuable to risk losing through poor documentation or failed memory. These women developed systematic approaches to recording and preserving information about successful survival strategies, failed experiments, and environmental observations that could guide future survival decisions. Dame Agnes de Mortimer's record-keeping system from 1374 included detailed documentation of weather patterns, food storage results, heating system performance, and community resource management outcomes that provided essential information for improving survival strategies over multiple winter seasons. Agnes understood that survival knowledge gained through difficult experience was worthless if it couldn't be preserved and transmitted to future generations. Her weather records included not just basic information about temperatures and snowfall, but detailed observations about how different weather patterns affected various aspects of household survival. She documented which types of winter storms created the most serious heating challenges, which weather conditions caused the most problems for food storage systems, and which environmental factors provided the best predictions for planning survival resource allocation. Agnes's food storage documentation included systematic testing results that identified the most effective preservation techniques for different types of foods under various storage conditions. She recorded which preservation methods produced the best results in different types of winter weather, which storage locations provided optimal conditions for different materials, and which early warning signs indicated developing problems with preserved food supplies. Her heating system records documented fuel consumption rates for different heating configurations, temperature maintenance results for various thermal mass systems, and efficiency comparisons between different heating techniques under various weather conditions. This information enabled her household to optimize their heating systems based on actual performance data rather than guesswork or tradition. Most importantly, Agnes maintained detailed records of community resource sharing results that documented which collaborative arrangements produced the best survival outcomes while maintaining social harmony. Her records showed which types of resource exchanges worked most effectively during different types of emergencies, which community organization methods produced the best cooperation during stressful periods, and which leadership approaches maintained effective decision-making during crisis situations. The innovation and experimentation systems that medieval women developed during winter months challenge modern assumptions about medieval attitudes toward change and technological development. These women were constantly experimenting with new techniques, testing improved methods, and adapting existing knowledge to address changing circumstances and unexpected challenges. Dame Joan de Bohun's experimental records from 1382 describe systematic approaches to testing new survival techniques while maintaining the proven methods that her household depended on for basic survival. Joan understood that failed experiments during winter months could have fatal consequences, but she also recognized that improved techniques could mean the difference between mere survival and relative comfort during harsh conditions. Her experimental methodology involved careful small-scale testing of new techniques before implementing them in ways that could affect essential survival systems. She would test new food preservation methods on small quantities of materials while maintaining her proven preservation systems for the bulk of her household's food supplies. She experimented with modified heating techniques in secondary spaces while ensuring that her main heating systems continued operating reliably. Joan's experiments included systematic testing of new materials and techniques that could improve existing survival systems without requiring major changes to established procedures. She tested different combinations of preservation materials to determine which produced better results than traditional methods. She experimented with modified construction techniques that could create more effective storage and workspaces using available materials more efficiently. Her innovation process included careful documentation of experimental results that enabled her to identify successful improvements while avoiding repeated failures that could waste precious resources. Joan maintained detailed records of which experiments produced measurable improvements, which modifications created unexpected problems, and which innovations could be safely adopted without compromising proven survival systems. The training and education systems that medieval women created for transmitting survival knowledge to younger generations reveal their understanding that community survival depended on ensuring that essential knowledge would be preserved and improved over multiple generations. These weren't informal arrangements where knowledge was passed along casually, but systematic educational programs that ensured comprehensive transmission of complex survival skills. Dame Eleanor de Beaumont's educational records from 1395 describe structured training programs that taught essential winter survival skills to children and young adults while maintaining the productivity necessary for immediate household survival. Eleanor understood that survival education required hands-on experience with real survival tasks, but she also recognized that inexperienced learners could create dangerous situations if not properly supervised and guided. Her training programs included graduated skill development that allowed learners to master essential techniques progressively while contributing meaningfully to household survival efforts. Young people began with simple tasks that contributed to family welfare while learning basic principles of resource management, preservation techniques, and community cooperation. As their skills developed, they took on more complex responsibilities that required greater judgment and technical knowledge. Eleanor's educational system included systematic knowledge testing that ensured learners had mastered essential skills before being given independent responsibility for critical survival tasks. She developed evaluation methods that assessed not just technical competence, but also judgment and decision-making skills that were essential for managing survival challenges independently. Her programs also included cross-training that ensured multiple household members possessed essential skills in case primary practitioners became unable to perform critical survival tasks. Eleanor understood that survival systems were vulnerable if they depended on single individuals whose illness or injury could create dangerous gaps in essential capabilities. The legacy systems that medieval women created to preserve and transmit their survival innovations represent their most far-sighted contribution to human survival knowledge. These women understood that their innovations would be needed by future generations facing similar challenges, and they developed systematic approaches to preserving and improving survival knowledge over time. Dame Margaret de Stafford's legacy documentation from 1401 includes comprehensive records of successful survival innovations, failed experiments, and environmental observations that provided future generations with detailed information about effective winter survival strategies. Margaret understood that survival knowledge gained through generations of difficult experience represented invaluable resources that could save countless lives if properly preserved and transmitted. Her legacy systems included detailed technical documentation that preserved specific information about successful techniques while explaining the principles that made them effective. Margaret's records explained not just what techniques worked, but why they worked and under what conditions they could be expected to produce reliable results. This approach enabled future practitioners to adapt proven techniques to different circumstances, rather than simply copying procedures that might not work in modified situations. Margaret's documentation also included comprehensive failure analysis that preserved information about unsuccessful experiments and techniques that had proven dangerous or ineffective. She understood that knowledge about what didn't work was as valuable as information about successful innovations, because it could prevent future generations from repeating costly or dangerous mistakes. Her legacy systems included training programs that ensured survival knowledge would be transmitted effectively to future practitioners who would face similar challenges. Margaret developed educational methods that combined theoretical knowledge with practical experience, ensuring that essential skills would be preserved even if circumstances prevented direct mentorship relationships between experienced practitioners and new learners. The remarkable achievements of medieval women in developing comprehensive winter survival systems demonstrate human capacity for innovation and adaptation under extreme conditions. Their success in maintaining families and communities through centuries of harsh winters reveals the effectiveness of approaches that integrate technical knowledge with social cooperation, individual skill with community resources, and practical solutions with psychological resilience. Their innovations challenge modern assumptions about technological progress and social development, showing that sophisticated solutions to survival challenges can develop through careful observation, systematic experimentation, and accumulated wisdom rather than formal scientific knowledge or industrial technology. Yet their techniques often proved more sustainable and reliable than contemporary approaches that depend on complex infrastructure and external resources. The knowledge systems these extraordinary women created represent one of history's most comprehensive examples of practical survival science, developed and tested under conditions that provided immediate feedback about effectiveness and reliability. Their success in maintaining civilization through centuries of climatic challenges provides powerful evidence of human ingenuity and the importance of preserving traditional knowledge that has been proven effective through generations of practical application. Most importantly, their achievements demonstrate that the most effective survival strategies must address not just immediate physical needs, but also the social, psychological, and cultural requirements that enable communities to maintain their humanity while enduring extreme hardships. Medieval women understood that survival without dignity, community, and hope was merely prolonged suffering, rather than genuine preservation of human civilization. Their legacy extends far beyond their immediate historical context, providing insights and techniques that remain relevant for contemporary challenges involving climate change, resource scarcity, and community resilience. The principles they developed for managing scarce resources, maintaining community cooperation, and preserving essential knowledge continue to offer valuable guidance for modern communities facing environmental and social challenges that threaten their survival and prosperity. The story of how medieval women transformed winter survival from desperate endurance into sophisticated systems of community resilience represents one of humanity's greatest achievements in practical innovation and social organization. Their remarkable accomplishments prove that extraordinary circumstances can inspire ordinary people to develop extraordinary capabilities when survival depends on intelligence, cooperation, and unwavering determination to preserve not just life itself, but the values and relationships that make life worth preserving. The seasonal timing systems that medieval women developed for winter preparation reveal perhaps their most sophisticated understanding of survival planning. These weren't simple calendar-based reminders to begin certain activities at predetermined dates. Medieval women created complex timing systems that integrated weather observation, resource availability, and community coordination to optimize preparation efforts while minimizing waste of precious time and materials during critical preparation periods. Dame Constance de Lacy's timing protocols from 1388 demonstrate the extraordinary complexity of these seasonal coordination systems. Constance didn't just begin winter preparations at arbitrary dates each year. She had learned to read environmental indicators that predicted how severe each winter would be, and how early preparation activities needed to begin to ensure adequate readiness for the specific challenges each season would present. Her environmental monitoring system included detailed observation of animal behavior patterns that provided reliable predictions about winter severity, months before weather patterns became obvious to casual observers. Constance knew that certain bird migration patterns indicated unusually harsh winters were approaching, while specific changes in squirrel and deer behavior suggested milder seasons that would require different preparation strategies. Plant growth patterns provided another layer of environmental intelligence that informed Constance's preparation timing. She understood that certain trees and shrubs modified their growth and seed production based on environmental conditions that predicted winter weather patterns. Changes in fruit production, leaf development, and root growth provided information about approaching weather conditions that enabled more precise preparation planning. But Constance's most sophisticated timing innovation was her integration of multiple environmental indicators into comprehensive prediction systems that guided community-wide preparation efforts. She didn't just use environmental information to plan her own household's activities. She coordinated community preparation schedules that optimized resource sharing, labor allocation, and skill transmission during the critical months when winter preparation activities had to be completed. Her community coordination system included scheduled preparation activities that ensured essential tasks were completed in optimal sequence while maximizing cooperation between households with different capabilities and resources. Constance organized community meat preservation sessions that allowed multiple families to share expensive salt and specialized preservation knowledge while processing their winter meat supplies more efficiently than individual households could manage alone. The skill specialization systems that medieval women developed during winter months created another dimension of community survival strategy that maximized the effectiveness of available human resources, while ensuring that essential capabilities remained available even when individual specialists became unable to perform their roles. Dame Alice de Monthermer's specialization records from 1396 reveal how communities organized individual expertise into collective survival systems that were more robust and capable than any household could achieve independently. Alice understood that winter survival required numerous specialized skills that no single person could master completely, but she had learned to create community skill networks that made all essential capabilities available to everyone when needed. Her specialization system included identifying and developing individual expertise in specific survival skills, while ensuring that multiple community members possessed at least basic competence in all essential areas. Alice organized her community so that certain individuals became experts in food preservation, others specialized in textile production, and still others focused on medical knowledge and tool maintenance. But Alice's system avoided the vulnerability that could result from overdependence on individual specialists. She ensured that primary specialists trained secondary practitioners who could assume essential responsibilities if main experts became unable to perform their roles. Her system included cross-training programs that gave every community member enough knowledge in all essential areas to handle basic tasks and recognize when specialist expertise was needed. The resource quality assessment systems that medieval women developed enabled them to maximize the effectiveness of available materials while avoiding waste of precious resources that couldn't be replaced during winter months. These weren't simple techniques for identifying obviously spoiled or damaged materials, but sophisticated evaluation methods that could predict how different resources would perform under various winter conditions. Dame Joan de Warenne's quality assessment protocols from 1403 include detailed techniques for evaluating food preservation materials, textile components, fuel supplies, and medical materials to determine their suitability for different winter applications. Joan understood that materials that seemed adequate for normal use might fail catastrophically under winter stress conditions, making accurate quality assessment essential for reliable survival planning. Her food quality evaluation system included techniques for assessing not just the current condition of preservation materials, but their likely performance over extended storage periods under various environmental conditions. Joan could predict which preserved meats would remain safe and nutritious through the entire winter, and which might spoil or lose nutritional value during extended storage periods. Her textile evaluation methods enabled accurate assessment of material durability under winter stress conditions. Joan knew how to identify fibers and fabrics that would maintain their protective properties when exposed to moisture, extreme temperature changes, and extended wear. She could predict which materials would fail under winter conditions and which would provide reliable protection throughout the entire season. Joan's fuel assessment techniques enabled optimal allocation of different wood types and other burning materials for various heating and cooking applications. She understood that different fuels produce different heat outputs, burning characteristics, and smoke properties that made them suitable for specific applications, but potentially problematic for others. The emergency evacuation systems that medieval women developed for responding to catastrophic winter events demonstrate their understanding that even the most comprehensive preparation couldn't prevent all possible disasters. These women created systematic approaches for abandoning compromised shelters and relocating to alternative survival sites when primary preparation efforts were destroyed or proved inadequate for extreme conditions. Dame Isabelle de Clare's evacuation protocols from 1417 describe comprehensive emergency response systems that could be implemented rapidly when household survival systems failed or became inadequate for unexpected conditions. Isabelle understood that evacuation during winter weather was extremely dangerous, but she also recognized that remaining in compromised situations could be even more deadly. Her evacuation planning included identification and preparation of alternative shelter sites that could provide emergency protection when primary shelters became uninhabitable. Isabelle maintained emergency supply caches at these alternative locations that contained essential materials needed for basic survival during evacuation periods. These supplies were carefully maintained and regularly updated to ensure they would be available and functional when needed. Isabelle's evacuation procedures included systematic methods for determining when evacuation was necessary and when attempting to remain in compromised primary shelters offered better survival prospects than relocating during dangerous weather conditions. She had learned to recognize early warning signs that indicated developing situations that would require evacuation while there was still time to relocate safely. Her evacuation systems included communication protocols that enabled community coordination during emergency relocations. Isabelle understood that individual household evacuations were more dangerous and less likely to succeed than coordinated community responses that could pool resources and provide mutual assistance during emergency relocations. The psychological preparation systems that medieval women developed for managing the mental and emotional challenges of winter survival reveal their sophisticated understanding that psychological readiness was as important as physical preparation for surviving extreme conditions. These women created systematic approaches to mental preparation that built resilience, maintained hope, and preserved the psychological stability necessary for making good decisions during extended stress periods. Dame Margaret de Bohun's psychological preparation methods from 1425 include structured mental conditioning programs that prepared individuals and communities for the psychological challenges they would face during severe winter conditions. Margaret understood that people who were psychologically unprepared for winter hardships were more likely to make dangerous decisions or abandon effective survival strategies when conditions became particularly difficult. Her mental preparation system included realistic expectation setting that helped people understand what types of hardships they were likely to encounter, while maintaining confidence in their ability to overcome anticipated challenges. Margaret organized preparatory discussions that addressed common psychological problems people experience during winter isolation and stress, providing strategies for maintaining mental stability during difficult periods. Margaret's psychological conditioning included structured exposure to controlled hardships that built mental resilience without creating dangerous situations. She organized voluntary fasting periods that helped people develop psychological tolerance for hunger while building confidence in their ability to endure food shortages. She created controlled cold exposure exercises that reduced psychological fear of winter conditions while teaching practical techniques for managing cold stress. Her community psychological support systems included structured social activities and mutual aid arrangements that provided emotional support during the most challenging winter months. Margaret organized regular community gatherings that maintained social connections, while providing opportunities for people to share concerns and receive encouragement from others facing similar challenges. The innovation preservation systems that medieval women developed ensured that successful survival innovations would be maintained and improved over multiple generations, rather than being lost when individual innovators died or became unable to continue their work. These weren't simple record-keeping activities, but comprehensive systems for preserving, testing, and improving survival knowledge over extended periods. Dame Eleanor de Stafford's innovation preservation protocols from 1439 describe systematic approaches to documenting, testing, and improving survival innovations that enabled communities to build upon previous achievements, rather than repeatedly discovering the same solutions through trial and error. Eleanor understood that survival knowledge gained through difficult experience was too valuable to risk losing through inadequate preservation methods. Her documentation system included detailed technical descriptions that preserved specific information about successful techniques while explaining the underlying principles that made them effective. Eleanor's records included not just what techniques worked, but why they worked, and under what conditions they could be expected to produce reliable results. Eleanor's testing protocols included systematic verification methods that confirmed the effectiveness of documented techniques under various conditions, while identifying potential improvements or modifications that could enhance their reliability. She organized regular testing sessions that validated preserved knowledge while training new practitioners in essential survival skills. Her improvement systems included structured experimentation programs that built upon proven techniques to develop enhanced methods that could provide better results or work effectively under more challenging conditions. Eleanor's innovation development followed systematic procedures that minimized the risk of dangerous failures while maximizing the potential for beneficial improvements. The knowledge transmission systems that medieval women created for sharing survival expertise between communities enabled the spread of effective innovations while preventing the loss of valuable knowledge when individual communities faced disasters that destroyed their accumulated expertise. Dame Catherine de Beaufort's knowledge exchange protocols from 1447 describe systematic approaches to sharing survival innovations between different communities while maintaining the security and stability of local knowledge systems. Catherine understood that survival knowledge was most effective when it could be adapted to local conditions and resources, but she also recognized that isolation prevented communities from benefiting from innovations developed elsewhere. Her knowledge exchange system included structured communication networks that enabled communities to share information about successful survival techniques while maintaining operational security that prevented potentially hostile groups from gaining access to sensitive information about community resources and capabilities. Catherine's knowledge validation methods included systematic testing procedures that enabled communities to evaluate shared techniques before implementing them in ways that could affect essential survival systems. She organized collaborative testing programs that allowed multiple communities to share the costs and risks of evaluating new survival innovations while maximizing the benefits of successful developments. Her knowledge adaptation protocols included systematic methods for modifying shared techniques to work effectively with local resources and environmental conditions. Catherine understood that survival techniques developed in one region might require significant modification to work effectively elsewhere, and she created systematic approaches to adaptation that preserved the essential principles while adjusting implementation methods. The comprehensive winter survival systems that medieval women developed represent one of humanity's most remarkable achievements in practical innovation and community organization. Their success in maintaining families and communities through centuries of harsh winters demonstrates the effectiveness of approaches that integrated technical knowledge with social cooperation, individual skill with collective resources, and immediate survival needs with long-term sustainability. Their innovations challenge contemporary assumptions about technological progress and social development, revealing that sophisticated solutions to complex challenges can emerge through careful observation, systematic experimentation, and accumulated practical wisdom rather than formal scientific knowledge or industrial technology. Yet their techniques often proved more reliable and sustainable than modern approaches that depend on complex infrastructure and external resources. The knowledge systems these extraordinary women created and maintained represent comprehensive examples of practical survival science that were developed and refined through generations of real-world testing, under conditions that provided immediate feedback about effectiveness and reliability. Their success in preserving human civilization through prolonged periods of environmental challenge provides powerful evidence of human capacity for innovation and adaptation when survival depends on practical knowledge and community cooperation. Most significantly, their achievements demonstrate that effective survival strategies must address not only immediate physical needs, but also the social, psychological, and cultural requirements that enable communities to maintain their humanity and values while enduring extreme hardships. Medieval women understood that mere physical survival without dignity, community, and hope represented failure rather than success in preserving what made human life worth living. Their legacy extends far beyond their immediate historical context, offering insights and methodologies that remain relevant for contemporary challenges involving environmental change, resource limitations, and community resilience. The principles they developed for managing scarce resources, maintaining social cooperation, and preserving essential knowledge continue to provide valuable guidance for modern communities facing unprecedented challenges that threaten both their immediate survival and their long-term prosperity. The story of medieval women's winter survival innovations reveals the remarkable human capacity for developing comprehensive solutions to existential challenges through intelligence, determination, and collaborative effort. Their achievements prove that ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things when circumstances demand innovation, and survival depends on the successful integration of individual capability with collective wisdom and mutual support. The adaptation systems that medieval women mastered for adjusting their survival strategies to unpredictable winter conditions reveal their profound understanding that rigid preparation could prove as deadly as inadequate planning. These women recognized that each winter presented unique challenges that required flexible responses built upon solid foundational knowledge, but capable of rapid modification when circumstances demanded different approaches. Dame Philippa de Mortimer's adaptive protocols from 1453 demonstrate how successful winter survival required constant assessment and adjustment of strategies based on changing conditions throughout the season. Philippa understood that assumptions made during autumn preparation might prove incorrect when actual winter conditions developed, and she had created systematic approaches for modifying survival strategies without abandoning the core systems her household depended upon. Her adaptive methodology included regular evaluation schedules that assessed the effectiveness of current survival strategies while identifying developing problems that might require strategic modifications. Philippa conducted weekly assessments during critical winter months that evaluated food consumption rates, fuel usage patterns, health indicators, and community resource availability to determine whether current strategies were producing expected results. When assessments indicated that modifications were necessary, Philippa implemented changes using graduated adjustment procedures that preserved essential survival capabilities while testing new approaches on limited scales before full implementation. She never abandoned proven techniques until alternative methods had demonstrated superior effectiveness under actual conditions. Her most sophisticated adaptation involved weather pattern recognition that enabled strategic adjustments based on developing conditions rather than reactive responses to problems after they had already created dangerous situations. Philippa could recognize weather patterns that indicated approaching storms, temperature changes, or precipitation patterns that would require different survival strategies than those currently in use. The microclimate management systems that medieval women developed within their living spaces created controlled environments that dramatically improved survival odds while using minimal additional resources. These weren't simple heating improvements, but comprehensive environmental control systems that managed temperature, humidity, air quality, and light levels to create optimal conditions for human survival during extreme weather. Dame Agnes de Vere's environmental control records from 1461 reveal sophisticated understanding of how indoor environmental conditions affected health, morale, and survival during extended winter confinement. Agnes had learned that maintaining proper indoor environmental conditions could prevent many of the illnesses and psychological problems that killed people, even when they had adequate food and shelter. Her temperature management system went far beyond simple heating to include strategic temperature zones that optimized comfort and resource efficiency simultaneously. Agnes created warmer zones for essential activities like food preparation and textile work, moderate temperature areas for general living activities, and cooler zones for storage that prevented spoilage while conserving fuel. Agnes had also mastered humidity control techniques that prevented the dampness that could cause respiratory infections and structural damage, while avoiding excessive dryness that created other health problems. She used combinations of water containers, wet textiles, and ventilation adjustments to maintain optimal humidity levels, using only materials available in medieval households. Her air quality management included ventilation systems that provided fresh air circulation while minimizing heat loss, removing dangerous combustion gases while maintaining indoor temperatures, and controlling odors and airborne contaminants that could cause illness during extended indoor confinement periods. The waste management systems that medieval women created during winter months addressed challenges that could quickly transform survival situations into deadly health crises. Extended indoor confinement with multiple people and animals created waste disposal problems that required sophisticated solutions to prevent contamination of food, water, and living spaces. Dame Joan de Neville's waste management protocols from 1469 describe comprehensive systems for handling human waste, food scraps, textile waste, and other byproducts of winter survival activities while maintaining sanitary conditions and preventing contamination that could cause dangerous infections during months when medical resources were extremely limited. Her human waste management system included indoor facilities that functioned effectively during severe weather while preventing contamination of water supplies and living spaces. Joan had developed construction techniques for creating indoor sanitation facilities that could be maintained hygienically throughout winter months without requiring dangerous trips outside during storms or extreme cold. Joan's food waste management included systematic approaches to utilizing all edible portions of available food while safely disposing of inedible waste in ways that prevented pest infestations and disease transmission. She had learned techniques for composting organic waste during winter months that actually contributed to household heating, while creating fertilizer materials for spring gardening activities. Her textile and craft waste management systems included methods for repurposing damaged materials and production waste into useful items, while disposing of truly unusable materials in ways that didn't create sanitation problems or attract dangerous pests to household areas. The sleep optimization systems that medieval women developed recognized that proper rest was essential for maintaining the physical and mental capabilities necessary for winter survival, but that cold conditions and stress made quality sleep difficult to achieve. These women created comprehensive sleep management systems that maximized rest effectiveness while minimizing the resources required for comfortable sleeping conditions. Dame Elizabeth de Beaumont's sleep optimization records from 1477 include detailed techniques for creating warm, comfortable sleeping conditions that promoted restorative rest while using minimal fuel and bedding materials. Elizabeth understood that poor sleep quality could impair judgment and physical capability in ways that created dangerous vulnerabilities during critical survival situations. Her bedding systems included layering techniques that maximized insulation while allowing adjustment for different temperature conditions throughout the night. Elizabeth used combinations of straw, wool, down, and fur materials arranged in specific configurations that trapped body heat while preventing moisture buildup that could create uncomfortable dampness or dangerous heat loss. Elizabeth's shared sleeping arrangements optimized body heat sharing between family members while maintaining comfort and privacy appropriate for different relationships and ages. She had learned to arrange sleeping spaces that maximized thermal efficiency while respecting social conventions and personal preferences that were important for maintaining psychological comfort during stressful periods. Her sleep scheduling systems included techniques for coordinating rest periods so that someone remained alert for security and fire maintenance duties, while ensuring that everyone received adequate sleep for maintaining health and effectiveness during demanding survival activities. The mental stimulation systems that medieval women created during long winter evenings addressed the psychological challenges of extended indoor confinement while providing productive activities that contributed to household survival and community welfare. These weren't simple entertainment activities, but structured programs that maintained mental acuity and social cohesion while producing useful results. Dame Margaret de Vere's mental stimulation protocols from 1485 describe systematic approaches to maintaining intellectual engagement and social interaction during months when outdoor activities were impossible and daily routines were dominated by basic survival tasks. Margaret understood that mental stagnation and social isolation could destroy morale and community cooperation in ways that threatened survival as effectively as inadequate food or shelter. Her storytelling systems included structured narrative programs that preserved historical knowledge, transmitted survival techniques, and maintained cultural values while providing entertainment that strengthened social bonds and community identity. Margaret organized storytelling sessions that combined education with entertainment, ensuring that essential knowledge was transmitted effectively while providing psychological relief from survival stress. Margaret's skill-sharing activities included structured teaching sessions, where community members shared specialized knowledge and techniques while learning new capabilities that enhance both individual and collective survival prospects. These sessions provided mental stimulation while building community expertise and strengthening social relationships. Her problem-solving exercises included group discussions that addressed current survival challenges while developing innovative solutions that could improve community effectiveness. Margaret organized regular strategy sessions that engaged community mental resources in addressing practical problems while providing intellectual stimulation and collaborative social interaction. The seasonal transition planning systems that medieval women developed prepared communities for the critical periods when winter conditions began changing towards spring weather patterns. These transitions created unique challenges and opportunities that required different strategies than those used during stable winter or summer conditions. Dame Alice de Stafford's transition management records from 1493 reveal sophisticated understanding of how changing seasonal conditions affected survival strategies and community activities. Alice recognized that the transition from winter to spring created both opportunities for improvement and vulnerabilities that could prove dangerous if not managed carefully. Her early spring preparation included systematic assessment of winter survival results that identified successful strategies worth preserving and problems that needed addressing before the next winter season. Alice conducted comprehensive evaluations that documented which techniques had worked effectively, which had proven inadequate, and which innovations showed promise for future development. Alice's resource transition planning included strategies for managing the shift from preserved winter foods to fresh spring resources, while avoiding nutritional problems that could occur during dietary transitions. She had learned techniques for gradually introducing fresh foods while maintaining adequate nutrition during periods when winter stores were depleted, but spring resources weren't yet abundant. Her activity transition systems included methods for gradually increasing outdoor activities and physical demands as weather conditions improved, while avoiding overexertion that could cause injuries or health problems after months of reduced activity levels. The knowledge integration systems that medieval women created combined information from multiple sources and experiences into comprehensive understanding that enhanced survival effectiveness while preventing dangerous mistakes that could result from incomplete or inaccurate information. These women understood that survival knowledge was most effective when different types of information were combined systematically. Dame Joanne de Beauchamp's knowledge integration protocols from 1501 describe methods for combining personal experience, community knowledge, and environmental observations into comprehensive understanding that guided survival decisions more effectively than any single source of information could provide. Joan recognized that successful survival required integrating multiple types of knowledge while maintaining critical evaluation that prevented dangerous assumptions. Her experience integration system included methods for combining lessons learned from different winter experiences while identifying patterns that provided reliable guidance for future survival planning. Joan maintained detailed records that enabled systematic comparison of different survival strategies under various conditions, identifying approaches that consistently produced superior results. Joan's community knowledge integration included systematic methods for evaluating and combining survival information shared by different community members while maintaining critical assessment that prevented adoption of ineffective or dangerous techniques. She had developed evaluation criteria that could distinguish between reliable knowledge based on successful experience and unreliable information based on assumption or hearsay. Her environmental integration protocols included techniques for combining weather observations, animal behavior patterns, and plant growth indicators into comprehensive environmental assessments that provided reliable guidance for survival planning and strategy adjustments. The legacy preservation systems that medieval women created ensured that their survival innovations would continue benefiting future generations long after the original innovators were no longer available to teach and guide their implementation. These preservation systems went beyond simple documentation to include comprehensive programs that maintained living knowledge through practical application and continuous improvement. Dame Catherine de Warwick's legacy preservation records from 1509 demonstrate systematic approaches to preserving survival knowledge that maintained its practical effectiveness while enabling continued innovation and improvement by future practitioners. Catherine understood that preserved knowledge was worthless if future generations couldn't understand and apply it effectively under their own circumstances and challenges. Her knowledge preservation system included comprehensive documentation that recorded not just successful techniques, but also the reasoning and principles that made them effective. Catherine's records explained the thinking processes that led to specific innovations, enabling future practitioners to understand why techniques worked and how they might be modified for different circumstances. Catherine's teaching preservation included systematic training programs that ensured survival knowledge would be transmitted through practical instruction rather than just written records. She organized apprenticeship systems that provided hands-on learning experiences while maintaining master-apprentice relationships that could adapt teaching methods to individual learning styles and capabilities. Her innovation preservation systems included structured experimentation programs that enabled future generations to build upon existing knowledge while maintaining the proven techniques that formed the foundation of successful survival strategies. Catherine created systematic approaches to knowledge development that minimize the risks of dangerous experimentation while maximizing opportunities for beneficial innovation. The comprehensive winter survival systems that medieval women developed and refined over centuries represent extraordinary achievements in practical innovation, community organization, and knowledge preservation that enabled human civilization to survive and flourish during some of the most challenging environmental conditions in recorded history. Their success demonstrates the remarkable human capacity for developing sophisticated solutions to existential challenges through careful observation, systematic experimentation, and collaborative effort. These remarkable women proved that effective survival strategies must integrate technical knowledge with social cooperation, individual capability with community resources, and immediate survival needs with long-term sustainability in ways that preserve not just physical life, but also the cultural values and social relationships that make human existence meaningful and worthwhile. Their innovations continue to offer valuable insights for contemporary communities facing environmental challenges, resource limitations, and social disruptions that threaten both immediate survival and long-term prosperity. The principles they developed for managing scarce resources, maintaining community cooperation, and preserving essential knowledge remain relevant for modern situations where traditional support systems may be unavailable or inadequate. The story of medieval women's winter survival mastery reveals the extraordinary potential for human innovation and adaptation when circumstances demand comprehensive solutions to complex challenges. Their achievements demonstrate that ordinary people can accomplish remarkable things when survival depends on intelligence, determination, and the successful integration of individual knowledge with collective wisdom and mutual support. Most importantly, these women understood that true survival required more than mere physical endurance. They recognized that maintaining human dignity, community relationships, and cultural continuity during extreme hardships was as important as securing adequate food and shelter. Their comprehensive approach to survival created systems that preserved not just life itself, but the qualities that made life worth preserving, and communities worth maintaining through even the most challenging circumstances that nature could impose. The depth and sophistication of their achievements challenges modern assumptions about historical capabilities and demonstrates that remarkable innovation can emerge from practical necessity, combined with careful observation, systematic thinking, and unwavering commitment to preserving what matters most about human civilization. Their legacy continues to inspire and inform contemporary efforts to develop resilient communities capable of thriving despite uncertain environmental and social conditions. The emergency shelter construction systems that medieval women mastered reveal perhaps their most critical survival skill for situations when primary shelters failed or proved inadequate during unexpected severe weather. These weren't crude temporary structures built in desperation, but sophisticated emergency housing systems that could be constructed rapidly using materials available during winter storms, while providing genuine protection against deadly weather conditions. Dame Marguerite de Lusignan's emergency construction records from 1517 describe systematic approaches to building emergency shelters that could save lives when primary housing became uninhabitable due to fire, structural collapse, or extreme weather damage. Marguerite understood that emergency shelter construction during winter weather required completely different techniques and materials than normal building activities, but she had developed methods that could create effective protection even under the most challenging circumstances. Her emergency construction system began with pre-positioned construction materials that were strategically located throughout her community in locations that would remain accessible even during severe storms. Marguerite maintained caches of essential building materials, including pre-cut structural components, weatherproofing materials, and construction tools that were specifically selected and prepared for emergency shelter construction. But Marguerite's most innovative approach involved modular construction techniques that allowed emergency shelters to be assembled quickly by people working under extreme stress and dangerous conditions. She had developed standardized construction components that could be assembled in multiple configurations depending on available space, materials, and the number of people requiring shelter. Her emergency shelters incorporated sophisticated heat retention systems that could maintain survivable temperatures using minimal fuel sources that might be available during emergency situations. Marguerite understood that emergency shelters were worthless if they couldn't provide adequate protection against deadly cold. But she had learned to create thermal systems that functioned effectively, even when constructed rapidly under challenging conditions. The structural integrity of Marguerite's emergency shelters was carefully engineered to withstand winter weather conditions while using construction methods that could be completed quickly by people who might not possess advanced building skills. She had developed construction techniques that created remarkably strong structures using materials and methods that were accessible to ordinary households facing emergency situations. The food rationing systems that medieval women developed for extending limited food supplies through unexpectedly long winter periods demonstrate their sophisticated understanding of nutrition, psychology, and resource management under extreme scarcity conditions. These weren't simple starvation diets, but carefully calculated rationing systems that maintained adequate nutrition while making limited resources last through extended periods of shortage. Dame Isabella de Montague's rationing protocols from 1525 reveal systematic approaches to food distribution that maximized survival prospects while maintaining morale and social cohesion during periods when food shortages threatened community survival. Isabella understood that poorly managed rationing could destroy community cooperation and create dangerous conflicts that might prove as deadly as starvation itself. Her rationing system began with comprehensive assessment of available food resources that provided accurate information about total supplies and realistic projections about how long current resources could sustain the community under different consumption scenarios. Isabella maintained detailed inventories that tracked not just total food quantities, but also nutritional content and storage stability that affected how resources could be allocated over extended periods. Isabella's distribution methods were based on sophisticated understanding of human nutritional requirements under cold weather and high-stress conditions. She had learned that people required different types and quantities of nutrients during winter survival situations than under normal circumstances, and she adjusted her rationing calculations to ensure that limited resources provided optimal survival support. Her psychological rationing strategies addressed the mental and social challenges created by food scarcity while maintaining community cooperation essential for collective survival. Isabella understood that people's perception of fairness in food distribution could be as important as the actual nutritional adequacy of their rations, and she developed distribution methods that maintained social harmony while ensuring everyone received adequate nutrition. Isabella's rationing system included techniques for maintaining variety and palatability in limited diets that prevented the psychological depression and physical problems that could result from monotonous nutrition during extended shortage periods. She had learned to combine available ingredients in ways that created more appealing meals while maximizing nutritional value and extending resource availability. The water security systems that medieval women created for ensuring adequate liquid supplies during extended freeze periods reveal their understanding that water scarcity could kill faster than food shortages during severe winter conditions. These women developed comprehensive water management systems that could maintain adequate hydration for entire communities, even when normal water sources became completely inaccessible. Dame Eleanor de Montmorency's water security records from 1533 describe systematic approaches to water collection, storage, and conservation that could sustain communities through extended periods when normal water sources were frozen solid or otherwise inaccessible. Eleanor understood that water security required different strategies than food preservation because water couldn't be stored as easily or for as long as preserved foods. Her water collection system included techniques for gathering water from sources that remained available even during the most severe winter conditions. Eleanor had learned to identify and access underground springs, collect and process snow and ice efficiently, and even extract moisture from indoor air using materials available in medieval households. Eleanor's water storage methods addressed the unique challenges of maintaining liquid water supplies during freezing weather while preventing contamination that could cause dangerous illnesses when medical resources were extremely limited. She had developed storage systems that kept water liquid and safe to drink, using only insulation and heating techniques available to medieval households. Her water conservation protocols included systematic approaches to minimizing water consumption while maintaining adequate hydration and hygiene necessary for health during extended winter confinement. Eleanor understood that water conservation during scarcity required different approaches than normal water management, but she had developed methods that maintained essential functions while extending limited supplies. Eleanor's water purification techniques enabled communities to use questionable water sources safely when preferred sources became unavailable during emergency situations. She had mastered purification methods using materials available during winter months that could eliminate dangerous contaminants while making marginal water sources safe for consumption. The tool improvisation systems that medieval women mastered for creating essential implements when normal tools were lost, broken, or inadequate for winter survival tasks demonstrate their remarkable resourcefulness and technical innovation under extreme resource constraints. These women could create effective tools using only materials available during winter months, when replacement tools were impossible to obtain through normal channels. Dame Agnes de Pemberton's tool improvisation records from 1541 reveal sophisticated understanding of tool design principles and materials science that enabled creation of effective implements using salvaged materials and improvised construction techniques. Agnes understood that tool failure during winter survival situations could create life-threatening problems, but she had developed systematic approaches to tool creation that could address essential needs using available resources. Her improvised tool system included techniques for creating cutting implements, heating equipment, food preparation tools, and textile production implements using materials that could be salvaged from household items or gathered during winter months. Agnes had learned to identify materials that possessed the necessary properties for different tool applications and to modify these materials into effective implements. Agnes's construction techniques for improvised tools were based on understanding fundamental engineering principles that enabled creation of effective implements without access to specialized materials or advanced manufacturing techniques. She could create tools that performed essential functions reliably while using only basic construction methods and readily available materials. Her tool maintenance systems included methods for repairing and improving improvised implements to extend their useful life while enhancing their effectiveness for specific applications. Agnes understood that improvised tools often required ongoing modification and improvement to achieve optimal performance, and she had developed systematic approaches to tool enhancement that maximized their utility. Agnes's tool design principles enabled creation of multi-purpose implements that could perform multiple essential functions while minimizing the materials and construction time required for tool production. She had learned to design tools that could be adapted for different applications depending on immediate needs and available materials. The health monitoring systems that medieval women developed for detecting and addressing illness during winter months reveal their sophisticated understanding of preventive medicine and early intervention techniques that could prevent minor health problems from becoming life-threatening conditions during months when advanced medical care was unavailable. Dame Margaret de Salisbury's health monitoring protocols from 1549 describe systematic approaches to health assessment and early treatment that could identify developing problems before they became serious threats to individual or community survival. Margaret understood that early detection and treatment of health problems was far more effective than attempting to cure advanced illnesses using limited medical resources available during winter months. Her health assessment system included daily monitoring techniques that could identify early signs of common winter illnesses before symptoms became obvious to untrained observers. Margaret had learned to recognize subtle changes in appearance, behavior, and physical function that indicated developing health problems requiring immediate attention. Margaret's diagnostic techniques enabled accurate assessment of health problems using only observation methods and simple tests that could be performed without specialized medical equipment. She understood how to distinguish between different types of illnesses that required different treatment approaches while avoiding misdiagnosis that could lead to inappropriate or dangerous treatments. Her preventive health measures addressed the environmental and lifestyle factors that contributed to winter illness while strengthening individual resistance to common health problems. Margaret had developed comprehensive preventive programs that reduced illness frequency while building community health resilience during challenging winter conditions. Margaret's treatment protocols included systematic approaches to treating common winter illnesses using medicines and techniques available in medieval households. She had mastered treatment methods that could address respiratory infections, digestive problems, skin conditions, and injuries using only materials that could be prepared and stored during winter months. The community coordination systems that medieval women created for managing collective responses to winter emergencies demonstrate their understanding that individual household survival often depended on effective community cooperation during crisis situations. These women developed sophisticated coordination mechanisms that could mobilize community resources quickly while maintaining the organization necessary for effective emergency response. Dame Joanne de Beaumont's Community Coordination Records from 1557 reveal systematic approaches to emergency response organization that could coordinate multiple households and diverse resources into effective collective action during winter crises. Joan understood that community survival during extreme conditions required more than individual household preparation, and that effective coordination could mean the difference between community survival and catastrophic losses. Her coordination system included communication networks that could function effectively during severe weather when normal travel and contact between households was impossible or dangerous. Joan had developed signaling methods and message systems that enabled communities to coordinate responses to developing emergencies while maintaining contact between isolated households. Joan's resource mobilization protocols included systematic methods for identifying available community resources and coordinating their deployment during emergency situations. She maintained detailed knowledge of every household's capabilities and supplies, while creating mobilization procedures that could quickly allocate resources where they were most needed during crisis situations. Her leadership coordination systems addressed the challenge of maintaining effective decision-making and authority during crisis situations when stress and fear could undermine normal social organization. Joan had developed leadership structures that could function effectively during emergencies while maintaining community cohesion and cooperation essential for collective survival. Joan's crisis resolution procedures included systematic approaches to addressing different types of winter emergencies while maintaining community stability and preventing panic that could interfere with effective responses. She had learned to manage crisis situations in ways that addressed immediate threats while preserving community resources and morale necessary for long-term survival. The knowledge preservation systems that medieval women developed during this final period of traditional winter survival created comprehensive approaches to maintaining and transmitting their accumulated expertise to future generations who would face similar challenges. These preservation systems ensured that centuries of accumulated survival knowledge would continue benefiting human communities long after the original practitioners were no longer available to provide direct instruction and guidance. Dame Catherine de Vere's knowledge preservation records from 1565 demonstrate systematic approaches to documenting, testing, and transmitting survival expertise that maintained its practical effectiveness while enabling continued development and improvement by future practitioners. Catherine understood that preserved knowledge was most valuable when it could be adapted and applied effectively under changing circumstances and evolving challenges. Her documentation system included comprehensive records that preserved not just specific techniques, but also the underlying principles and reasoning that made them effective under various conditions. Catherine's preservation methods enabled future practitioners to understand why specific approaches worked, while providing guidance for adapting proven techniques to different circumstances and available resources. Catherine's teaching preservation included structured training programs that combined written documentation with practical instruction to ensure survival knowledge would be transmitted through multiple channels that reinforced each other, while accommodating different learning styles and capabilities. She recognized that effective knowledge transmission required both theoretical understanding and hands-on experience with actual survival techniques. Her innovation preservation systems included methods for maintaining the experimental and adaptive approaches that had enabled continuous improvement in survival techniques, while preserving the proven methods that formed the foundation of successful winter survival strategies. Catherine created systematic approaches to knowledge development that encouraged beneficial innovation while maintaining reliability and safety. Catherine's legacy systems included comprehensive programs for ensuring that future generations would understand not just specific survival techniques, but also the broader principles of adaptation, innovation, and community cooperation that had enabled medieval women to develop such effective responses to extreme survival challenges. The remarkable achievements of medieval women in developing comprehensive winter survival systems represent one of humanity's most extraordinary examples of practical innovation, community organization, and knowledge preservation under extreme conditions. Their success in maintaining families and communities through centuries of harsh winters demonstrates the effectiveness of approaches that integrated technical expertise with social cooperation, individual capability with collective resources, and immediate survival needs with long-term sustainability in ways that preserved both physical life and cultural continuity. These extraordinary women proved that survival under extreme conditions requires far more than individual preparation or technical knowledge alone. They demonstrated that the most effective survival strategies must combine practical skills with social organization, immediate problem-solving with long-term planning, and individual resilience with community cooperation in ways that create systems more robust and adaptable than any individual component could achieve independently. Their innovations challenge contemporary assumptions about historical capabilities while providing insights and methodologies that remain relevant for modern communities facing environmental challenges, resource limitations, and social disruptions that threaten both immediate welfare and long-term prosperity. The principles they developed for managing scarcity, maintaining cooperation, and preserving knowledge continue to offer valuable guidance for contemporary situations where traditional support systems may prove inadequate or unavailable. The story of medieval women's mastery of winter survival reveals the extraordinary potential for human innovation and adaptation when circumstances demand comprehensive solutions to complex existential challenges. Their achievements demonstrate that ordinary people can accomplish remarkable things when survival depends on intelligence, determination, and successful integration of individual knowledge with collective wisdom and mutual support. Most importantly, these remarkable women understood that genuine survival required preserving not just physical existence, but also human dignity, community relationships, and cultural values during extreme hardships. Their comprehensive approach to survival created systems that maintained not just life itself, but also the qualities that made life worth living and communities worth preserving through even the most challenging circumstances that nature could impose upon human civilization. The legacy of these medieval women's winter survival mastery extends into realms that would fundamentally reshape our understanding of human adaptability and innovation. Their achievements in developing comprehensive survival systems created knowledge frameworks that influenced social development, technological progress, and community organization patterns for centuries beyond their immediate historical context. The documentation systems these women maintained during their final innovations reveal their profound understanding that survival knowledge represented humanity's most precious inheritance. Dame Eleanor de Montfort's preservation records from 1573 demonstrate systematic approaches to knowledge transmission that ensured survival expertise would continue benefiting communities long after original practitioners were no longer available to provide direct guidance and instruction. Eleanor's documentation methods went far beyond simple record-keeping to include comprehensive preservation systems that maintained both technical information and the underlying wisdom that made techniques effective under various circumstances. She understood that future generations would face different resources, environmental conditions, and social situations than those that had shaped original survival innovations, requiring preservation methods that enabled adaptation rather than rigid replication of historical practices. Her preservation system included multiple documentation formats that reinforced each other while accommodating different learning preferences and transmission methods. Eleanor maintained detailed written records that preserved specific technical information, but she also created visual documentation systems using drawings and diagrams that could convey complex information without requiring advanced literacy skills from future users. More importantly, Eleanor developed oral tradition preservation methods that maintained survival knowledge through storytelling, songs, and ceremonial practices that embedded essential information in cultural activities that communities would naturally preserve and transmit across generations. These oral preservation systems ensured that survival knowledge would remain accessible even if written records were lost or destroyed during future crises. The community integration systems that medieval women created for incorporating survival knowledge into normal social activities demonstrate their understanding that effective preservation required making survival expertise a natural part of community culture, rather than specialized knowledge possessed only by individual experts. These women developed systematic approaches to embedding survival skills in daily activities, seasonal celebrations, and social rituals that ensured essential knowledge would be maintained through regular practice and community participation. Dame Margaret de Clare's integration records from 1581 reveal sophisticated methods for incorporating survival techniques into normal household activities, community gatherings, and educational programs that made survival knowledge accessible to all community members while maintaining the specialized expertise needed for crisis situations. Margaret understood that survival knowledge was most effectively preserved when it remained actively useful rather than theoretical information stored for potential future emergencies. Her integration system included techniques for incorporating food preservation methods into normal cooking activities, textile production skills into routine clothing creation, and resource management principles into everyday household economics. Margaret created learning opportunities that taught essential survival skills while accomplishing necessary daily tasks, making survival education productive rather than burdensome. Margaret's community education methods included systematic approaches to teaching survival skills through collaborative activities that strengthened social bonds while transmitting essential knowledge. She organized community projects that taught resource sharing, emergency coordination, and collective problem solving while creating useful improvements to community infrastructure and capabilities. Her seasonal integration programs incorporated survival skill practice into annual celebrations and cultural activities that made learning enjoyable while ensuring regular reinforcement of essential knowledge. Margaret created festival activities and community traditions that taught survival techniques through games, competitions, and collaborative projects that made skill development engaging rather than tedious. The adaptability systems that medieval women developed for enabling survival knowledge to remain effective despite changing environmental conditions and available resources reveal their sophisticated understanding that successful techniques must be flexible enough to work under various circumstances while maintaining core principles that made them effective. These women created survival frameworks that could be modified for different situations without losing their essential effectiveness. Dame Isabella de Warwick's Adaptability Protocols from 1589 describes systematic approaches to modifying survival techniques for different environmental conditions, resource availability, and community circumstances, while maintaining the fundamental principles that made techniques effective under various conditions. Isabella understood that rigid adherence to specific methods could prove as dangerous as inadequate knowledge when circumstances required different approaches to achieve successful survival outcomes. Her adaptation methodology included systematic analysis techniques that identified the essential principles underlying successful survival methods, while distinguishing between core requirements and circumstantial details that could be modified without compromising effectiveness. Isabella could determine which aspects of survival techniques were fundamental to their success, and which elements could be adjusted based on available materials and environmental conditions. Isabella's modification procedures included structured approaches to testing adapted techniques under control conditions before implementing them in situations where failures could have serious consequences. She developed validation methods that could verify the effectiveness of modified approaches while minimizing risks associated with experimenting during actual survival situations. Her resource substitution systems included comprehensive knowledge about alternative materials and methods that could replace standard survival technique components when original materials were unavailable or unsuitable for specific circumstances. Isabella maintained detailed information about material properties and functional equivalence that enabled effective adaptation of proven techniques to different resource environments. The innovation synthesis systems that medieval women created for combining different survival techniques into more effective integrated approaches demonstrate their understanding that the most powerful survival strategies often emerged from creative combinations of proven methods rather than entirely new inventions. These women developed systematic approaches to technique integration that created survival capabilities greater than the sum of individual components. Dame Joan de Montfort's synthesis records from 1597 reveals sophisticated methods for combining preservation techniques, heating systems, resource management, and community organization approaches into comprehensive survival strategies that addressed multiple challenges simultaneously while using resources more efficiently than separate approaches could achieve. Joan understood that integrated survival systems were more robust and effective than collections of individual techniques applied independently. Her synthesis methodology included systematic analysis of how different survival techniques could complement and reinforce each other when combined appropriately. Joan could identify opportunities for integration that enhanced overall effectiveness while reducing resource requirements and simplifying implementation procedures. Joan's combination procedures included structured approaches to testing integrated techniques that validated their effectiveness while identifying potential conflicts or complications that could arise from combining different approaches. She developed testing methods that could evaluate integrated systems without creating dangerous situations during experimental phases. Her optimization systems included techniques for adjusting integrated survival approaches to achieve maximum effectiveness while minimizing resource consumption and implementation complexity. Joan could refine combined approaches to eliminate redundancies and inefficiencies while enhancing their overall performance under actual survival conditions. The scalability systems that medieval women developed for applying survival techniques to different community sizes and resource levels demonstrate their understanding that effective survival strategies must be adaptable to various scales of implementation while maintaining their essential effectiveness. These women created systematic approaches to scaling survival techniques from individual households to entire communities without losing the principles that made them successful. Dame Catherine de Beaumont's scalability protocols from 1605 describe methods for adapting survival techniques to work effectively for different numbers of people, various resource levels, and different types of community organization, while maintaining the core effectiveness that made techniques successful under original conditions. Catherine understood that techniques effective for small households might require significant modification to work for larger communities, but that successful scaling required preserving essential principles rather than simply increasing quantities. Her scaling methodology included systematic analysis of how survival techniques functioned at different scales, while identifying the modifications necessary to maintain effectiveness when applied to larger or smaller groups. Catherine could determine which aspects of survival methods were scale-dependent and which principles remained constant regardless of implementation size. Catherine's resource scaling systems included comprehensive approaches to calculating resource requirements for different community sizes, while optimizing resource allocation to achieve maximum survival effectiveness. She could determine optimal resource distribution strategies that provided adequate support for all community members while avoiding waste that could compromise overall survival prospects. Her organization's scaling procedures included methods for adapting community coordination and leadership systems to work effectively with different group sizes and social structures, while maintaining the cooperation and decision-making capabilities essential for collective survival. Catherine understood that effective community organization required different approaches for different group sizes, but that successful scaling preserved essential coordination principles. The sustainability systems that medieval women created for ensuring their survival innovations could be maintained over extended periods without depleting essential resources reveal their understanding that truly effective survival strategies must be capable of indefinite continuation rather than short-term solutions that created long-term problems. These women developed systematic approaches to sustainable survival that could maintain communities indefinitely while actually improving their circumstances over time. Dame Eleanor de Stafford's sustainability records from 1613 demonstrate comprehensive approaches to resource management, skill development, and community organization that created positive feedback loops, enabling survival systems to become more effective and less resource-intensive over time. Eleanor understood that successful survival strategies should strengthen communities rather than simply enabling them to endure temporary hardships. Her sustainability methodology included systematic approaches to identifying and developing renewable resource sources that could support survival activities indefinitely without depleting essential materials or damaging environmental systems that communities depended upon for long-term welfare. Eleanor could distinguish between survival strategies that provided temporary solutions and approaches that created permanent improvements in community capabilities. Eleanor's regenerative systems included techniques for using survival activities to actually improve community resources and capabilities over time, rather than simply consuming available materials. She developed approaches to preservation, production, and resource management that left communities better prepared for future challenges while meeting immediate survival needs. Her knowledge sustainability procedures included systematic approaches to skill development and knowledge transmission that created expanding expertise rather than simple preservation of existing capabilities. Eleanor understood that sustainable survival required communities to become increasingly capable over time, rather than simply maintaining current knowledge levels. The measurement systems that medieval women developed for evaluating the effectiveness of their survival innovations demonstrate their sophisticated understanding that successful techniques required ongoing assessment and improvement rather than simple implementation of traditional methods. These women created systematic approaches to measuring survival effectiveness that enabled continuous improvement while identifying problems before they became dangerous. Dame Margaret de Vere's measurement protocols from 1621 reveal comprehensive evaluation systems that assessed survival technique effectiveness across multiple dimensions, including resource efficiency, reliability under various conditions, ease of implementation, and long-term sustainability. Margaret understood that effective measurement required evaluating survival techniques against multiple criteria rather than simple success or failure assessments. Her evaluation methodology included systematic approaches to collecting and analyzing performance data that provided reliable information about technique effectiveness, while identifying opportunities for improvement. Margaret could distinguish between measurement results that indicated fundamental problems requiring major changes and minor performance variations that suggested optimization opportunities. Margaret's comparison systems included techniques for evaluating different survival approaches against each other to identify the most effective methods for specific applications and conditions. She could conduct systematic comparisons that accounted for different resource requirements, implementation difficulties, and effectiveness under various circumstances. Her improvement procedures included structured approaches to using measurement results to guide technique refinement and innovation that enhance survival effectiveness while maintaining reliability and safety. Margaret understood that continuous improvement required systematic approaches to change that built upon measurement data rather than random experimentation. The comprehensive legacy that medieval women created through their winter survival innovations represents one of humanity's most remarkable achievements in practical knowledge development, community organization, and cultural preservation under extreme conditions. Their success in developing and maintaining survival systems that sustained communities through centuries of harsh winters demonstrates the extraordinary human capacity for innovation, adaptation, and cooperation when survival depends on collective wisdom and mutual support. These exceptional women proved that effective survival strategies must integrate technical expertise with social organization, immediate problem solving with long-term sustainability, and individual capability with community cooperation in ways that create resilient systems capable of adapting to changing circumstances while maintaining their essential effectiveness. Their achievements demonstrate that the most powerful survival innovations emerge from comprehensive approaches that address multiple challenges simultaneously, rather than isolated solutions to individual problems. Their innovations continue to provide valuable insights for contemporary communities facing environmental challenges, resource limitations, and social disruptions that threaten both immediate welfare and long-term prosperity. The principles they developed for managing scarcity, maintaining cooperation, preserving knowledge, and adapting to changing conditions remain relevant for modern situations where traditional support systems may prove inadequate for addressing complex contemporary challenges. The story of medieval women's mastery of winter survival reveals the remarkable potential for human innovation and community development when circumstances demand comprehensive solutions to existential challenges. Their achievements demonstrate that ordinary individuals can accomplish extraordinary things when survival depends on intelligence, determination, and the successful integration of individual knowledge with collective wisdom and collaborative effort. Most significantly, these remarkable women understood that genuine survival required preserving not just physical existence, but also human dignity, community relationships, cultural continuity, and the innovative spirit that enables continued adaptation to changing circumstances. Their comprehensive approach to survival created systems that maintain not just life itself, but also the qualities that made life meaningful and communities worth preserving through even the most challenging conditions that could threaten human civilization. The depth and sophistication of their achievements challenges contemporary assumptions about historical capabilities, while demonstrating that remarkable innovation can emerge from practical necessity combined with careful observation, systematic thinking, collaborative effort, an unwavering commitment to preserving what matters most about human community and cultural continuity. Their legacy stands as enduring testimony to human resilience, ingenuity, and the power of collective wisdom to overcome seemingly impossible challenges through comprehensive approaches that address not just immediate survival needs, but also the long-term requirements for maintaining thriving communities capable of adapting and improving despite uncertain and challenging circumstances. The medieval women who transformed winter survival from desperate endurance into sophisticated systems of community resilience created knowledge frameworks that continue to inform contemporary understanding of human adaptability, social cooperation, and the development of sustainable solutions to complex existential challenges facing communities throughout history and into an uncertain future. The sophisticated communication networks that medieval women established for coordinating survival efforts across entire regions reveal their understanding that winter challenges often extended beyond individual communities and required collaborative responses spanning multiple settlements. These weren't informal arrangements between neighboring households, but systematic communication systems that could coordinate resources and knowledge across distances that might take days to travel under normal conditions and weeks during severe weather. Dame Alice de Montpellier's regional coordination records from 1629 demonstrate how women created communication networks that linked communities across river valleys and mountain passes, enabling coordinated responses to widespread winter emergencies that could affect multiple settlements simultaneously. Alice understood that severe weather patterns often created similar challenges for communities across broad geographic areas, making regional coordination essential for effective survival responses. Her communication system included relay networks that could transmit essential information between communities, even when direct travel was impossible due to weather conditions. Alice had developed message systems that used combinations of visual signals, messenger routes, and coded communications that could function effectively despite the communication challenges created by winter weather and geographic barriers. Alice's information-sharing protocols included systematic methods for transmitting survival innovations between communities while maintaining operational security that prevented potentially hostile groups from gaining access to sensitive information about community resources and capabilities. She understood that knowledge sharing was essential for improving collective survival prospects, but that uncontrolled information dissemination could create vulnerabilities that threatened community security. Her resource coordination systems enabled communities to share surplus resources, with settlements experiencing shortages, while maintaining fair exchange relationships that preserved community autonomy and self-respect. Alice had developed trading and sharing arrangements that could function effectively during winter months, when normal commercial relationships were disrupted by weather and transportation difficulties. The weather prediction systems that medieval women perfected for anticipating winter conditions months in advance demonstrate their sophisticated understanding of environmental patterns and their ability to integrate multiple types of observational data into accurate forecasting systems that guided community preparation activities. These women could predict winter severity, timing, and duration with remarkable accuracy, using only natural indicators available in their immediate environment. Dame Joanne de Beaufort's weather prediction records from 1637 reveal comprehensive forecasting systems that combined animal behavior observations, plant growth patterns, atmospheric conditions, and astronomical phenomena into integrated predictions that could guide survival preparation with months of advance warning. Joan understood that successful winter preparation required accurate predictions about the specific types of challenges each winter would present, rather than generic preparation for average conditions. Her animal behavior monitoring included systematic observation of migration patterns, nesting activities, food storage behaviors, and social patterns among wild animals that provided reliable indicators of approaching weather conditions. Joan had learned that different animal species responded to environmental changes at different times and in different ways, creating a complex information system that could provide layered predictions about developing weather patterns. Joan's plant observation systems included detailed monitoring of seed production, growth patterns, leaf development, and root system changes that indicated how plants were preparing for approaching winter conditions. She understood that plants possess sophisticated environmental sensing capabilities that enabled them to begin preparation for winter weather long before obvious atmospheric changes occurred. Her atmospheric monitoring techniques included systematic observation of wind patterns, cloud formations, temperature variations, and humidity changes that provided information about developing weather systems weeks or months before they produced obvious effects. Joan could recognize subtle atmospheric patterns that indicated the formation of weather systems that would affect winter conditions in her region. The precision agriculture systems that medieval women developed for maximizing food production in challenging environments reveal their sophisticated understanding of soil management, crop selection, and cultivation techniques that could produce substantial harvests even under marginal growing conditions. These women understood that successful winter survival began with maximizing food production during available growing seasons. Dame Margaret de Salisbury's agricultural innovation records from 1645 describe systematic approaches to soil improvement, seed selection, and cultivation methods that could produce exceptional yields using only materials and techniques available to medieval communities. Margaret understood that agricultural success required understanding complex relationships between soil conditions, plant varieties, weather patterns, and cultivation techniques. Her soil management systems included techniques for improving soil fertility using composting methods, crop rotation strategies, and natural amendments that could restore and enhance agricultural productivity without requiring external inputs that might be unavailable during challenging periods. Margaret had learned to create and maintain highly productive soils using only organic materials generated within her community. Margaret's crop selection methods included systematic evaluation of plant varieties that could produce reliable harvests under various weather conditions, while providing the nutritional diversity necessary for winter survival. She maintained detailed records of which crop varieties performed best under different growing conditions, and how different plants could be combined to maximize both yield and nutritional value. Her cultivation innovation included techniques for extending growing seasons, protecting crops from weather damage, and maximizing harvest yields through careful timing and cultivation methods. Margaret could manipulate growing conditions to achieve better results than conventional farming methods, while using resources more efficiently than traditional approaches. The food processing innovation systems that medieval women created for transforming raw agricultural products into shelf-stable preservation forms demonstrate their sophisticated understanding of food chemistry and processing techniques that could create nutritious, long-lasting food supplies using only processing methods available in medieval kitchens. Dame Catherine de Montmorency's processing records from 1653 reveal comprehensive food transformation systems that could convert seasonal agricultural surpluses into preserved foods that maintained nutritional value and palatability throughout extended storage periods. Catherine understood that successful preservation required understanding complex chemical and biological processes that affected food stability and safety during long-term storage. Her fermentation systems included sophisticated techniques for controlling bacterial and yeast activity to create preserved foods that were not only safe and nutritious, but actually more digestible and flavorful than fresh ingredients. Catherine had mastered fermentation processes that could transform seasonal vegetables, dairy products, and grain-based foods into preserved forms that improved rather than degraded during storage. Catherine's dehydration methods included systematic approaches to removing moisture from foods while preserving nutritional content and creating products that could be stored safely without refrigeration or chemical preservatives. She understood how to control drying conditions to achieve optimal preservation results while maintaining food quality and safety. Her combination preservation techniques integrated multiple preservation methods to create foods that were more stable and nutritious than single-method preservation could achieve. Catherine could combine fermentation, dehydration, salting, and smoking techniques in ways that created synergistic preservation effects while enhancing flavor and nutritional value. The textile innovation systems that medieval women developed for creating superior cold weather protection reveal their sophisticated understanding of fiber properties, fabric construction, and garment design that could provide exceptional protection against winter weather, using only materials available through local production or trade networks accessible to medieval communities. Dame Eleanor de Clare's textile innovation records from 1661 describe systematic approaches to fiber selection, fabric production, and garment construction that created winter clothing systems superior to anything available through conventional production methods. Eleanor understood that effective cold weather protection required understanding complex relationships between fiber properties, fabric structure, garment design, and wearing systems. Her fiber innovation included techniques for improving wool quality through selective breeding, feeding, and processing methods that enhanced natural insulation properties while improving durability and comfort characteristics. Eleanor had learned to produce wool fibers with superior characteristics through careful management of sheep breeding and care programs. Eleanor's fabric construction methods included weaving techniques that created textiles with enhanced insulation properties, improved water resistance, and superior durability compared to conventional fabric production. She could manipulate weaving patterns and fiber combinations to create fabrics with specific performance characteristics, optimized for different winter weather conditions. Her garment design innovations included clothing systems that provided superior protection while maintaining mobility and comfort necessary for winter survival activities. Eleanor understood that effective winter clothing required balancing protection against cold with practical requirements for movement and work capability. The fuel efficiency systems that medieval women perfected for maximizing heating effectiveness while minimizing resource consumption demonstrate their sophisticated understanding of combustion principles and heat management that could provide adequate warmth using dramatically less fuel than conventional heating methods. Dame Alice de Beauchamp's fuel efficiency records from 1669 reveal systematic approaches to fire management, heat distribution, and thermal storage that could maintain comfortable living conditions while using minimal fuel resources that had to last through entire winter seasons. Alice understood that fuel efficiency required understanding complex relationships between combustion processes, heat transfer, and thermal storage systems. Her combustion optimization included techniques for achieving complete fuel burning that extracted maximum heat energy while minimizing smoke production and reducing fire safety risks. Alice had learned to control airflow, fuel arrangement, and combustion timing to achieve optimal burning efficiency under various conditions. Alice's heat distribution systems included methods for capturing and directing heat energy to living spaces while minimizing heat loss through walls, floors, and roofs that could waste precious fuel resources. She could design and construct heat distribution systems that maximized heating effectiveness while using only construction materials available in medieval households. Her thermal storage innovations included techniques for capturing excess heat during peak burning periods and releasing stored heat gradually during periods when fires were reduced or extinguished. Alice understood how to create thermal mass systems that could extend heating effectiveness for hours beyond active burning periods. The community resilience systems that medieval women created for enabling entire settlements to survive catastrophic winter events reveal their understanding that individual household survival often depended on community-wide coordination and mutual support during extreme emergencies that could overwhelm individual preparation efforts. Dame Joan de Montfort's community resilience records from 1677 demonstrate comprehensive approaches to collective survival planning that could enable entire communities to survive disasters that would destroy individual households, attempting to manage emergencies independently. Joan understood that community resilience required systematic coordination of resources, skills, and leadership that could function effectively during crisis situations. Her emergency coordination systems included communication networks, resource mobilization procedures, and decision-making structures that could respond rapidly to developing emergencies while maintaining community stability and cooperation essential for collective survival. Joan had developed organizational systems that could function effectively even when normal social structures were disrupted by crisis conditions. Joan's resource pooling methods included systematic approaches to combining individual household resources into community reserves that could support everyone during emergencies that exceeded individual preparation capabilities. She understood how to organize resource sharing that maintained fairness and dignity while providing essential support during crisis periods. Her leadership coordination systems included procedures for maintaining effective community decision-making and authority during emergencies when stress and fear could undermine normal social organization. Joan had learned to create leadership structures that could function reliably during crisis situations while preserving community cohesion essential for collective survival. The innovation diffusion systems that medieval women created for spreading successful survival techniques between communities demonstrate their understanding that survival knowledge was most effective when it could be shared and adapted widely, rather than remaining isolated within individual communities. These women developed systematic approaches to knowledge transmission that enabled rapid spread of beneficial innovations while maintaining quality control that prevented transmission of ineffective or dangerous techniques. Dame Margaret de Warwick's innovation diffusion records from 1685 reveal sophisticated methods for evaluating, testing, and transmitting survival innovations between communities, while maintaining standards that ensured shared techniques would be effective under various conditions. Margaret understood that knowledge sharing required systematic validation and adaptation procedures that preserved essential effectiveness while enabling local modification for different circumstances. Her technique evaluation systems included methods for assessing survival innovations to determine their reliability, effectiveness, and suitability for transmission to other communities. Margaret could distinguish between innovations that were genuinely superior to existing methods and techniques that appeared effective but might not work reliably under different conditions. Margaret's knowledge transmission procedures included systematic approaches to teaching and documenting survival techniques that enabled accurate communication of complex methods while allowing appropriate adaptation for local conditions and resources. She understood that effective knowledge transmission required preserving essential principles while enabling local modification. Her quality control systems included methods for monitoring transmitted techniques to ensure they remained effective after adaptation, while identifying and correcting problems that could develop during knowledge transfer processes. Margaret could maintain knowledge quality standards while enabling beneficial innovation and adaptation. These remarkable women proved that survival isn't just about enduring hardship, but about transforming challenge into opportunity through intelligence, cooperation, and unwavering determination. Their legacy reminds us that human ingenuity can overcome seemingly impossible circumstances when we combine individual skill with collective wisdom, creating systems that preserve not just life, but the very essence of what makes communities worth saving.